All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this Legislative Intern Program info session. We have transitioned to the virtual world for many of our workshops and info sessions, and glad that you were able to join us today. We have many of our friends with us from the House of Representatives and the Legislative Intern Program. And so I am going to turn it over to Hope Anderson, Mary Griffith, and Pamela Green Davis.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for having us, Adrian. We appreciate it doing this Zoom meeting in this new world in which we are living right now. Joining me today, I'm Pam Green, and with me are Mary Griffith, our program manager and tech guru, and Hope Anderson, who is our program specialist, and she is our intern program coordinator. So she is the person that has more contact with applicants and interviewees and then the interns throughout the process. So she's someone that people should get to know. Thank you for joining us. Our intern program is exciting. We are proud of that program. It is unique in that interns are selected to actually participate in the world of a committee, a House committee, or either a House minority office, majority office, or even the clerk's office, which was new for us this year, but there was an opportunity for one of our interns to work with the House clerk, which was exciting, according to that intern. This program is over 50 years old, and we, again, are proud of the successes that we've had, and we've had very good feedback through our intern surveys and through the visits that we get once interns graduate and kind of move on and they come back, or they email and keep in touch with us to let us know of their successes, and we appreciate that as well. It is a competitive program. We usually receive between 80 to 100 applications. It is, we interview about 25 applicants, and we usually select, or I should say the speaker usually selects between 10 to 12 interns. And this year was interesting because we had 12 interns, 9 of which were women and 3 men. And usually it's the other way around. And that number was slowly changing over time, but for us to only have 3 men was a little different this year, but it was fine and it worked out well. Just a change in the demographics. I can explain some of the excitement of some of the assignments that interns will have and experience throughout their internship: research projects, issue papers, because before an idea becomes a bill, then it has to be researched, and the policy is researched, and then staff determines and the chairman determines if this is a direction that they want to take with legislation. An analyst or an intern works as an analyst. They will be assigned a bill, and they will analyze that bill and track that bill from the beginning to the end of the process. Whether the bill dies or whether the bill is heard on the floor, that intern assigned to that bill is responsible for knowing the details of the legislation that the members have to consider. Remember, there's 120 members, so that's a lot of people who may have questions about an issue, but you are never alone because you have the committee staff who works as a team and will work with you and help you with any of the questions or any issues that may arise. And again, we realize that you are students, but the idea is to really get you in there and submerge you into the legislative process. You really have an opportunity to see the legislative process up close and personal. And so it's an exciting opportunity. We have eligibility requirements, and let me start with this. We want you to have, of course, the bachelor's degree, and then we want you to be enrolled in a graduate program by the time the program begins. The program usually begins in October, and it ends 2 weeks after the end of the legislative session. And I have to stress that it's not a gap year program. This is, again, for someone who has enrolled into and has been accepted into a graduate program. It doesn't apply to the graduate students here, but we do not accept, just for FYI, first-year law students, because the American Bar Association does not permit us to permit them to work their first year in law school. You will be required to submit transcripts. A copy is fine. If you're selected, you would probably be asked to provide an official transcript at some time. There are test scores. If you have test scores, we'd like to see those. We have references from your instructors, and we have a requirement for an employee or employer reference. If you have not worked and it doesn't apply to you, that is not a ding or something negative for you. So that's nothing to worry about. It's a paid internship. So I'm going to let Hope walk you through some of the nuances and the positives and the regarding the pay and the stipend and tuition. Hope?
Thank you, Pam. We have a few options for the Legislative Intern Program. You can get paid $13 an hour from October to December, up to 20 hours and per week. And then January through May, up to 30 hours per week. You get a little bit heavier in May because that's usually when we're, January to May, because we're in the legislative session period. When we also, on top of that, you can get up to 18 hours of graduate tuition for Florida in-state rates during the internship from fall to spring. Or if that doesn't fit, you can also receive a stipend of $500 from October to December and $800 from January to May.
Yes. And just to explain that, thank you, Hope. And
Sure.
Just to explain that the session, the length of the internship depends on when the session occurs. So in even years, session begins in January and usually ends around March. The internship would then end 2 weeks after that last day of session. In the odd years, which is what would be coming up, and that's the 2021 session, the legislature will begin in March and they will end either the last week in April or the first week in May. So it varies. So that's why the length of the internship really depends upon the length or the timing of the session. So during the January to May, once January occurs, as Hope said, the workload increases because either session has begun in January or it is preparing to begin in January, and committee meetings have really ramped up and you're getting ready for a March session, which will be the case in 2021. You will also be required to provide 2 writing samples. One is a general questions that we ask, and I think Mary has them on the screen, required questions that we ask. Why did you choose your course of study? What are your plans following graduation, etc.? And then the intern review panel was also interested in receiving a document or paper or brief that a student prepared for a class assignment. So it's nothing new that you have to provide. It can be something that you've provided before and to a class and received a grade on, that's fine. And you would just submit that as well. The process usually begins in April, and I will be honest with you, with what's happening with the COVID-19, our timing is a little off right now. So we are waiting to get some direction from the speaker's office, and I think a lot of people are waiting for direction, period, on where we're going to be with COVID-19 and what our options are going to be when it comes to an internship. But in general, we have an application process. Once that closes, The committee staff, the staff directors and policy chiefs, you sit down, and the clerk will sit down and decide who they want to interview. Will Hope would notify you of the interview process and the timing for the interview. And then you would sit in a room with about 9 people, wonderful people, and they will begin to ask you some questions regarding the internship and your interest and why you're interested, and trying to get a feel for who you are. So we are fine. The challenge is once we get through that process, because for the interviews, we have always had to either do a Skype interview or people arrive in person. So the interviewing process, we're not too intimidated by, because we are comfortable doing off-site interviews. Our challenge, of course, is going to come into play as to what's happening in October and where we are with the COVID virus, where we are with the CDC's recommendation as far as social distancing and how we're managing. And we have to follow the state's process and the governor's maybe executive orders. So that's a challenge, and that's what's kind of up in the air. But that's where we are at this point. I want to also stress that there is a workload, but there's not one staff person in the house who doesn't understand that this is an internship, and they are very willing to work with you on your schedule, your class schedule. That is number one. No one expects you to, just, forego a class or anything like that in order for you to participate in this internship. And so the staff is very flexible when it comes to that. The other thing is, you'll notice, I think it says at some point, I think we say business hours, be prepared to work regular business hours, just as a notation. During session, business hours for us is a little different from regular people and regular jobs. We are here, we are in the Capitol as long as the members are on the floor. So, and depending upon your assignment, we have, and we don't have set hours, but again, the staff will work with an intern on the schedule. If a bill is coming up later in the day and you have a class, and somebody on the committee would be willing to, of course, handle your bill at that point. And I can't Hope, is there anything else I should mention?
That covers most of it. I mean, like you said, we're so up in the air on how to handle things at this moment.
Right, but we wanted to share who we are with you now. So, because we hope to have our application process open as soon as we can. And once we'll do that, then we will have to adjust our timeline. So we would keep everybody informed. And once we have dates and concrete dates, and we have some clear direction, we would certainly notify the graduate school and the law school on what that schedule is going to look like. Are there any questions?
I do appreciate, I think it's Ashley sent her email address.
Okay.
Yeah, that was good. And I've written it down.
Okay. All right. All right. Are there any questions?
Hi. I actually have 2 questions. So, am I still eligible to apply if I'm graduating from my master's program in December?
No, because you would already have your degree, right?
No, I mean, like I'm still in school.
Right, and you would be.
I'm sorry?
You graduate in December 2020?
Yes.
So you would be there for the first half of the internship, is what you're saying? You'd be in graduate school for the first half of the internship?
Yes.
I don't know that we've had that happen. Have we had that, Hope?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'd have to do some investigating on that. That's a good question, because I don't know if we've had a situation like that in the years that we've had the program. But I will tell you what, we have your information, and we'll get back to you and let you know.
Thank you.
Sure.
And my other question is, how is experience weighted versus, you know, transcript writing samples? Like what is the weight on each section of the application?
So it's not really a weight system in that sense. The applicants, the intern review panel, what happens is, let me give you a little picture. So what happens is everybody all the committees and the offices, the minority office, which is the Democratic Party, the Republican office, the majority office, which is the Republican Party, and the clerk, and then the policy and budget committees each have a representative who sits on this intern review panel. So I don't know that they weigh one thing against the other, whether it's experience or your writing skill. I will say this, the writing skills I think are weighed probably heavier, and your communication skills during the interview. There's no, we're not using the scoring sheet or anything from that perspective. But I will tell you, what they're going to look for are really the strong writing and communication skills, and verbal communication skills are going to be really what's key for them. Not so much test scores. I mean, that's important, but they're really going to look to feel like if you're a good fit, and if you're writing, and because that's the crux of your job, the most important thing is the communications piece. So I would say that's most important.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything else?
I have a question, actually.
Yes, hi.
Am I still eligible to apply for the program if I have a graduate degree, but I'm still in graduate school?
So you're getting like a second degree?
I've got my master's in psychology already. I received that en route to my PhD, but I have a fourth year, so I have another year left, a year and some left in my degree program. So I won't be graduated by the time that this program, the intern program, has ended. However, I already do have a graduate degree.
Oh, yes, yeah. I think you can apply. Hope, what do you think? I believe you've had a situation before, yes.
So I know we've had a PhD apply before.
Yes. So you can apply.
Okay, excellent. And to clarify, because I want to make sure that I understand how tuition, stipend, benefits, and the like work. It sounds like you have the option between a stipend, a tuition waiver, or getting an hourly rate of pay.
Now you've got the option to get either a stipend or tuition. So you either choose the stipend payment or the tuition payment. And when you become an intern, you get the hourly pay.
Okay.
So you would just have to determine if you want just a stipend payment, or if there's classes you want to get paid for. You have to choose, the tuition waiver up to 18 hours. And you also have to remember that you can't split the stipend and tuition. You have to do one or the other. So you can't say, okay, for fall, I want to do tuition, but I want to do the stipend in the spring. You have to choose one or the other.
So to clarify, is there the option to just get a waiver for partial tuition and get the rest covered by, say, my department in the event that that's an option for me? Or would I need to have it all or nothing?
You can, if you chose tuition, you can have up to 18 hours paid. So you don't have to use all the 18 hours from the fall to the spring. If you just want to use, 12 hours, and then the rest of your, your grants or whatever, pay the rest of it, that would be strictly up to you. And you would have to work out those particular issues with the FSU billing office.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, Stacy Pierre here. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Just wondering, for this particular program, there is no major preference. So I'm a biology major. Would the program still be, I guess, available and open for people like me in the biology department to apply to? Is it just, that's my question.
No. In fact, it's funny. We had, this past session, we had an intern who was an astronomy major.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Oh, here, so think about it like this. There's education issues. So if you're getting a master's in education, there's education policy. If you're interested in health management or another area of allied health services or things like that fall in that category, there's health policy that the legislature considers. They're in the area of biology. Did you say biology?
Yes, I did say biology.
So the State Affairs Committee handles natural resources and issues related to the environment. So there are policies that would impact that area. In fact, one of the biggest issues the legislature has dealt with the last couple of years, I think, has been the algae bloom down around Martin County. And that's been something that's a big issue. So there's the water management district issues. So I think that it's outside, people always think because it's the legislature, you think automatically political science or public administration majors. It's a broad area. The legislature touches every aspect that certainly would apply, that someone in a graduate program would be, maybe studying. So I think there are issues that would be relative and relevant to a biology major.
Thank you so much for clarifying.
You are welcome. You're welcome. Anything else? Like that's it?
Oh, the webpage.
About the website. Mary just put it up there. So here's the website, myfloridahouse.gov. And she's going to click on student resources, and then there is the House Internship Program. So once we have information and we have some hard decisions made that the speaker is going to make regarding the intern program, all that information will be right there. And I will make sure I contact Adrienne to let her know what's going on once we have information as well. So we will keep you informed and keep you up to date.
I want to thank both you all for facilitating this info session and for all of the students.
Yes.
The time out of your busy day to join us.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting us and hosting us. We appreciate it.